Do your contacts have any more information than we've given about the possible death of Shekau?
Just to indicate that it was an audio message that was released by the Islamic State in West Africa province. They appointed an interim leader who recorded the audio message and, as usual, used Islamic text and scriptures to justify their actions. Now, the incident happened on the 18th or thereabout of May last month. And then this is more or less the final confirmation that suggests that Abubakar Shekau has been killed.
Presumably the army will use DNA or something to make it completely definitive because, as I said, it's not the first time that there have been claims that Shekau is not around anymore.
So as much as we would really want that to happen, it's not likely that it would happen for the simple reason that the location where the incident happened is not a place where the army has access to. It supposedly happened in Sambisa Forest, which is one of the camps that is being used by the Shekau's group, that's Jamaat al-Ahal Lil Dahat wal Jihad. It's not very likely that the army would have the resources and the capability to acquire that the DNA, substance or whatever it is that they would want to test to confirm that that's Shekau. And in the absence of that, the only sort of available confirmation would be statements like this. As sad as it is, that's what we have to work with at the moment.
Kabir, when he took the reins in 2009, Boko Haram just wasn't the group that it became, this huge terror network. And I say huge, even though their numbers might be quite small. I mean huge in terms of impact. Shekau was really important in making it the terror group it is today. But if he were to be dead, what would it mean for its future?
Firstly, I think it's very important to emphasize that Abubakar Shekau is probably the longest serving terror leader, especially if we're looking at Islamist jihadism. He has been on the throne, on leadership of Jamaat al-Ahal Lil Dahat wal Jihad for as long as about 7 to 8 years of the existence of that group. No other leader has claimed that. Now, there are several reasons for this. One is the fact that he was never taken seriously, perhaps because of the way his mannerisms. He appeared like someone who is demented and perhaps could not achieve what he has achieved. But then he has surprised many by remaining this long and resilient. Now, with his absence, he has left behind a group that is well situated within the Northeast, has good grasp within the local communities, is able to fund its activities, is able to acquire weaponry. So to that extent, it appears that it's very likely that the group would outlive him. However, the group is competing with the other group that killed him, that is the Islamic State in West Africa province, in the same space. And in the last 4 or 5 years, the two sides have been fighting each other. Increasingly, we've seen the Islamic State in West Africa province gaining ground and becoming more successful than the group led by Abubakar Shekau. So it's going to be one of two things. Either his group would become more resilient, move out of that particular location, or it may likely be swallowed up by the Islamic State in West Africa province.
Kabir, before you go, we just wanted to get your take on what's happening across the Sahel region. With the French government and President Macron threatening that he may even withdraw French troops from Mali, and then this news in Burkina Faso of 160 people being killed during an attack over the weekend in a village. How unstable is the Sahel, and how important are the French troops in fighting terror across that region? Bearing in mind, the Sahel starts on one side of Africa and goes right the way to the other side.
Exactly, and this is, I think, the significance that the Sahel has and that the world needs to look at more critically. It's not a hidden knowledge that after the collapse of both Al-Qaeda and Islamic State in Syria and Iraq, Sahel appears to be the next sort of convergence point for these two major terror groups. And so we've seen a proliferation of smaller jihadist groups within the Sahel region, allied to either Al-Qaeda or Islamic State in global Islamic State. Now, with this in mind, and the vast nature of the terrain and the poverty level, as well as other development indexes in the Sahel region, it appears that, unfortunately, we've not seen the worst of all that we're seeing at the moment. One key point that I think the world would need to emphasize is good governance. Unfortunately, I'm not hearing that in current discussions. France has a troop strength of 5,000 plus troops within the Sahel region. The US has, other Western countries have. But with regards to democracy and good governance, I'm not hearing enough of that type of discussion. In fact, contrary to that, we saw what happened in Chad when there was a coup, and as it were, the coup was endorsed by almost all the Western governments, and in fact with African Union and ECOWAS as well. So that, I think, is the crux of the matter. Good governance that would promote equity, justice, and economic advancement, especially inclusion, would be the way to go. And unfortunately, that's not being pursued at the moment.
Kabir, thank you so much indeed for sharing that analysis with us. Kabir Adamu in Nigeria.